Holy titty tuggers, this was tight. I think this is one of the best episodes of television I've ever seen. Right off the bat, a great opening. Mark talking to himself back and forth with the tape recorder feels so inspired, I'm surprised they didn't do it sooner. In comedy, there's a general rule that if something continues to be funny, then just let it ride. And this is kind of the drama equivalent of that. This sequence is 17 uninterrupted minutes long. But it's so interesting that they just keep it going and it never gets boring. And there's this entire arc between the two of them where they start out being really appreciative to be able to see each other and talk to each other, and then it devolves into this paranoid, suspicious relationship. And this is just the first really interesting scene that we have between innies and outies. Later, we've got outie Dylan just kind of bearing his soul to his innie. It's really nice to finally see a back and forth between the two sides of these characters, as opposed to just one-sided interactions like we've seen before. And this scene wouldn't have been as great if Adam Scott hadn't nailed the performance of both sides the way that he did, with Mark S. becoming emotional at finally being addressed as a person by his outie.
Well, I guess you know who I am. But the first thing I need to say to you is that I am so sorry.
And Mark Scout, despite knowing full well that this innie exists, but being amazed at finally seeing proof of it.
Wow, this is, I never expected to actually speak to you.
Holy shit.
The episode is so packed full of great moments that it feels like they were saving for this episode, that maybe that's one of the reasons the season felt kind of slow during previous episodes for me. And I'm fully aware that season 1 kind of had the same trajectory, where it started out really strong, then sort of paced itself in the middle, and then ramped way up at the end. And that's exactly what we have with season 2. I think it just feels much different watching it week to week, whereas I binged season 1. I'm really curious to go back and rewatch the entire series and see if I get sort of a different impression with a more bird's eye view of both seasons. Anyway, we got an explanation as to what the MDR numbers mean, so I finally understand it exactly the same amount as I did before the explanation.
The clusters
Our tempers.
They cleared it up a little bit, but I feel like we still don't know how or why Mark's work is creating new innies for Gemma. With my original theory, it was more like Mark was tapping into his own feelings about Gemma, but here it feels more like he's actually tapping into her brain literally, which don't make no goddamn sense to me. So I don't know, we'll see, I guess. We also don't know why Mark creating this 25th personality is so important for Lumon. I feel like they have some greater goal, and once we know what that is, a lot of this will make more sense. I have a feeling that Mark and Helly are going to spend a good amount of time, at least at the beginning of season 3, hiding out in Lumon, trying to find answers, so hopefully things will become more clear as they explore. I mean, there's still a shit ton on this map that we don't know anything about. I love that Lumon is still desperately trying to control the innies like they're children by literally incentivizing Mark to do this very important thing for them with fucking waffles. God, find a new trick. I'm really glad that Dylan is finally manning up. He'd just fallen so far from season 1.
You said it's behind the poster of you actually being brave?
Okay, yeah, fuck you.
I think we really started to see for the first time how ruthless Lumon is. When Regabi killed Grainer, she seemed to think that this was par for the course, that Lumon would do this and worse to them. But Drummond going to town on Mark like this is really the first time we've seen them willing to kill just to get what they want. Mark's expression here says it all. It really feels like he is completely expendable now that he's done his work. But you know. And then...
Okay, now in a second, I'm gonna change to my Audi.
I feel bad for both of them, honestly, but I laughed very loudly also. I also have a random hunch that he's gonna die some horrible death, so if that's true, then we can look forward to that. So yeah, I'm still having trouble figuring out what the relation is between Mark's work and what Gemma's doing. She performs this test so that they can make sure she doesn't feel anything when she disassembles the crib, but that feels like grading her on his quiz. But anyway, everyone gets some great moments, and we finally get to see Mark and Gemma reunited, which is really sweet. And this kiss in the elevator is another example of those really good ideas I feel like they were saving for this episode. It is just great, while also making use of the mechanics of the show. I think it's fantastic how this short little scene starts out dramatic and emotional, then becomes funny, all while utilizing the dynamics of 4 different characters. And the ending, while open-ended, I think was pretty satisfying because I don't find myself needing to know what happens next, quite like I did with season 1. I'm curious and I'm sure it's gonna be good, but this is more of an ending. Biggest cliffhanger, honestly, was what's gonna happen between Milchick, Dylan, and the band.
Fuck you, Mr. Milchick.
And also, I just gotta give a general shout out to the cinematography because this episode just looked amazing. There are so many beautiful shots. I mean, the show always looked good, but goddamn, they pulled out the stops for this one. So yeah, there's lots to talk about, but I don't got all goddamn day. So hit me up in the comments if you want, but my preferred method of communication is actually taping messages to floodlights and burning them into my eyes, or Twitter. Who's that?